Hi everyone, I wanted to give you a little bit more detail for exam 1. Also, I know some individuals aren't able to see the screencast that talks about this that I made previously, and so I'm going to attempt a different venue. I will probably say very close to the same thing. This one I'm going to try to break down a little further for you. This breakdown is not meant as a review of the material, but I will try to help you focus your studies and efforts. Also, if you know you're weaker in one of these subject areas and there's only 2 questions, maybe it's worth your effort to focus on another subject area that has 6 questions. So I'm going to leave that up to you and your discretion. First of all, the exam is 55 questions, not quite evenly broken down. There's 22 from Module 1, the cardiovascular system, and 32 from Module 2, blood and pressures. Then there's one freebie at the end, so one that you have to get right. As long as you mark it, you should get that right. So let's first go to Module 1. Module 1 has a little further breakdown I want to discuss. There are 5 main subject areas from this. The first one I'm going to say is just general part. So maybe it talks about the muscle or the effects of the autonomic nervous system, something like that, that's just more of a general you should know type question. Let me back up just for a second. The questions on your exam will be general knowledge questions and then application questions, things that you have to take the information that you've learned and apply it to those situations, whether it's a mini case study or to the circumstances of the question. So 3 questions about the heart, general questions. There are 3 questions about specifically blood flow through the heart. So make sure you know that trip that the red blood cell could take, say from the right atrium out of the left ventricle and then back ultimately to the right atrium. There are 2 questions specifically about the EKG and those waves and what they mean. There are 6 questions about electrical potentials, whether that's contrast and compare, whether it's what channels are open at what time. As I've mentioned in much of the feedback I gave, the graph with the 3 electrical potentials, the regular nervous system action potential that you learned in 264, the cardiac myocyte potential with the calcium plateau, and then the conductive tissue self-conducting action potential. Those 3, there's a diagram of those 3. That is on your exam. So you will see that again. And there, like I said, there are a total of 6 questions. The final 8 questions from Module 1 are all about this diagram here, this cardiac cycle. So it may incorporate EKG, it may incorporate volume or pressure. You will see this diagram, not labeled, but you will, as far as what the different lines are, or the different graphs are, but you will see this also on your exam, this diagram. So keep that in mind. So that's Module 1. In Module 2, once again, 32 questions. You'll have 3 questions specifically about blood type and compatibility. You'll have 2 general blood characteristic questions. There will be 4 questions about blood vessels in some form, and that may include capillaries. There are 5 questions about the red blood cell in some form. There are 11 questions about pressure, whether it's blood pressure, like high blood pressure, whether it's mean arterial pressure. So I was just going to say MAP, but I wanted to at least say it outright correctly, about osmotic forces, all that type of thing, what you're studying actually right now or just finished studying. That's a big bulk. That's like a third of your Module 2 exam. So make sure you know your pressures, your hydrostatic, your osmotic, your regular blood, systolic versus diastolic pressures, things like that, okay? There are 4 questions about the clotting mechanism, so all about hemostasis. That may include specific factors in that clotting cascade. It may include something to do with platelets, that type of thing, any one of those processes. And then finally there are 3 questions about regulation. For example, about baroreceptors, there's a couple of questions about that. And so just keep that in mind as you're studying, and especially as you're finishing up Module 2, there's going to be a number of those questions that are going to really focus on, once again, pressure. So that's your more specific breakdown.